All right, so I'm going to go ahead and get started. This is the externship training for the fall of 2015 at Colorado Law School. And so each of you, either tuning in online or watching this recorded, is an externship supervisor. And you have been sent the manual for externship supervising attorneys, and we also wanted to have the opportunity to talk to you about the externship experience and what we hope to do in collaboration with you during this externship this semester. This also will hopefully provide an overview of our externship program and be helpful in the semesters ahead as you may be a sponsoring supervisor again. So, I'm here to discuss what we hope our students learn from their placement, and so that they can see the connection between what the students learn at the placement and what they're learning here at the law school. And basically, that's why we're here and that's why we have the program. So today, I really want to discuss four things. I want to discuss the overall value of experiential learning and how that transition from classroom to workplace or classroom to professionalism works. I want to discuss an overview of what the students' personal goals may be. Personal goals seems to gravitate around the same sort of 10 personal goals that I'm going to be talking about. Third, I want to discuss professionalism issues that are important in externships. And finally, some nuts and bolts about the program, the mid-semester self-analysis, some journaling that some of the students might be doing, the final semester student report, and the final semester supervisor report. So what our program is here at Colorado Law. Colorado Law's externship program aims to help students develop professional lawyering skills, gain insight into various aspects of the legal system and profession, and cultivate a sense of professional responsibility. These are really our goals. The methods by which we achieve these goals of helping the students develop professional skills and gain insight into the legal system and a sense of professional responsibility is through you and through the experience that you offer them in the field placement program. Students receive close supervision under our program and instruction from an attorney or a judge at the field placement location, as well as some supervision by the faculty here at the law school, mostly through the engagement of myself, the director of experiential learning. Our mandatory classes at the beginning of the semester, where we discuss goal setting, as well as one at the end of the semester, where we do an exit session and talk about some of the professionalism issues that came up during the experience or the work experience itself. And students are also, they're offered several other different professionalism and ethics opportunities throughout the semester that they're encouraged to attend as well. All of this, and throughout the semester, students are encouraged to reflect upon their experience and to reflect upon what has been going on in their externship. So just by background, a little bit more about who I am. My name is Christopher McKee. I am the director of the Shadden Experiential Learning Program and also the public service programs here at the law school. In that role, it fits very nicely into what our externship program does, which is put students in placements in nonprofit or government entities or in judicial clerkships. We don't have a private law firm offering. Our externship program is solely there to put students in placements that serve the public good. And in that sense, it fits nicely within the experiential learning and public service aspects of my work. By way of background, I have been teaching as an adjunct professor here at the law school since 2009. Prior to that, I was an attorney at the Public Defender Service in the District of Columbia for approximately 10 years, and before that, a public defender in the state of Georgia at the DeKalb County Public Defender's Office in Atlanta. My journey or path to my practice of law as a public defender very much came out of my externship experience. And that is what led me to take over as the Shadden Director of Experiential Learning. I am a firm believer that the externship experience is one which students will grow professionally and also have the opportunity to then have the tools to succeed as they join the legal profession. And that was very much my path. I was a first-generation law student, first-generation college. I didn't come to law school with a deep resume about the law or even perhaps a deep understanding about the legal profession. I was sort of heavy on catering, restaurant work, and house painting, but not very much on legal work. Now, that all sort of changed as I started taking externship opportunities in the fall semester of my second year of law school. And there I began to go into placements at the Atlanta Legal Aid Society, working with senior citizens, or the Southern Center for Human Rights, doing prisoner condition work and death penalty work, to ultimately a full-year externship at the DeKalb County Public Defender's Office as a third-year operating under the third-year practice rule. I was able to move with that and my summer experiences to have a very solid resume in order to become a public defender. And that is what our students do as well as externs. In their externships, have the opportunity to build their resume, build professional contacts, and build a professional identity in order to succeed as a lawyer. And so my role here as the director is to ensure that the students have those kinds of opportunities, and I expect that each of you who has volunteered to be a supervisor has done it for the very same reasons. So in terms of the manual, I'm not going to go over the manual, but the manual will be a good resource for you to go back on to see if, and get some guidance perhaps throughout the semester if you ever feel like you're stuck and what exactly to do with a student. Also, my contact information is there in the manual so that I can be able to assist you to make sure that the experience that the student has in the externship is as valuable as it could possibly be. Now, what the students do, as was introduced in the manual, is learn by doing. And all of us know this. We may know this under the sort of term of praxis, which is sort of the sort of fancy way of talking about how the process of putting theory and lessons into practice is a way that people learn. And that really is what is at the core of what an externship is. So it is the process of putting this theoretical knowledge that they're learning at the law school and putting it into practice, using it for strategic reasons, organizing the usage of what substance they're learning in law school, and putting it into operation. So as you are helping the students learn, I hope you're also drawing from them what they're learning here in the law school, and hopefully directing them back to be able to enhance what it is that they're learning. Now, personal goals. When the students at the very beginning of the semester take part in setting personal goals for their externship, we go through and have the students talk about the kinds of personal goals that they may have set for themselves in this semester. We talk about how they should bring those up with the externship supervisor in those initial weeks at the externship. And so what I'd like to do is go over some of those personal goals and what's important, I think, to the externship program that the supervisors understand. And so first, I'm going to actually start with one that some students don't start with, but is very important for us, I think, to discuss as supervisor and the faculty member. And that is the importance of working on writing skills and the writing component to the externship. Now, at Colorado Law, this is the writing component is something that is really not negotiable. We insist that a writing component be a part of every single externship that a student is placed in. There are, at times, of course, some sensitivities, redactions that need to be made, accommodations that need to be made, but we really do insist that supervisors work with students in order to allow them to have good substantive writing samples. And that writing sample, of course, is to be turned in at the conclusion of the externship, and it is reviewed only by me. And also, we really want to encourage externship placement supervisors to work with students so that they can also have a writing sample that they're walking away from their externship with. And that is what I want to talk a little bit more about. The reason why we believe that it's so important that students are able to walk out of your externship with a writing sample is, quite frankly, there aren't that many opportunities in law school for them to have good quality substantive writing samples. The benefit in an externship placement, of course, is the real life example of writing that's used in the course of litigation, or a memorandum that's provided to the employer, or a judicial opinion. That is not really replicated in other areas of the law school. There is, of course, the first year legal writing memos in which students are getting guidance and feedback on, but the skills that they improve from 1L legal writing to the conclusion of their law school career is extraordinary. And to not capture that by having some writing sample for them to be able to walk away from your externship placement with really puts them at a disadvantage. The disadvantage of having to rely upon a 1L memo, perhaps, as their writing sample. It just isn't something that I think employers or potential employers expect to see. And unfortunately, the podium courses that the students are taking don't afford them opportunities to have good writing samples often. Oftentimes those are graded by examination, or there might be a seminar component in which they're taking a seminar, but those papers have page limitations around 30 pages and aren't easily redacted down to show what their skills are as lawyers, and quite frankly, they're also geared towards a very different academic audience often, and don't have the same sort of power that a real live writing example is from an externship placement. So we are sensitive to the issues of confidentiality. We're sensitive to the issues that some things may be ongoing in litigation. We're sensitive that things may be in a collaborative process. And so it's okay that we get some of those caveats with some of the writing samples, but we really do wish to encourage every single placement to allow a student to have the opportunity to produce a writing sample and to walk away with it. If for some reason you think this is an impossibility, of course, we would like to continue the dialogue about that with you. Now, and I will say that some judicial placements, they're very sensitive about releasing the opinions, draft opinions. However, there are also moments in which they give assignments then that the students can share, memorandum on particular issues. Some judges ask for assistance in helping prepare for perhaps a presentation that they're doing. Those kinds of documents, and writing samples would be just as valuable to the student and as acceptable to us in the program. I have gotten a couple questions about the length of the document. There is no magic rule with regard to the length of the document. Some placements, it is rare that somebody in that position, say a legislative aide, would write something more than a one-page document or one or two-page document. That is perfectly fine. If, for instance, you're at the public defender's office in a litigation position, it is acceptable to us that the students submit openings and closings that they've written out, or their direct or cross-examinations, those kinds of examples of writing fit to those litigation goals in their placement. And so those are acceptable to us. Obviously, if in the litigation position you're also doing motions, we do think that it would be valuable that the student be working in their motions practice as well as their litigation. But I wanted to start off by talking about working on writing skills and the value of writing samples, because I think that's the largest area of perhaps conflict in terms of what supervisors are willing to release. That's on the release issue as well. I also want to address the issue of feedback and the quality of the feedback that you are giving to the students about writing. All law students, no matter how wonderful and competent they are when they come to you as a 2L or 3L in their externship, can use the value of somebody giving them real substantive feedback to their work. We know that this is an additional burden on you as the supervisor to do this, but it really is a skill that the students look to and need. And so we do encourage you to redline these documents, provide examples, redirect the student, and criticize and critique as substantively as you would an associate at the firm or one of the beginning prosecutors or public defenders in your placement. It really is important for them to learn the value of editing, redrafting, by having multiple opportunities to get feedback on their writing. All right, so in addition to writing skills and the importance of the writing component to the CU Law externship, there are other personal goals that students come in with. One of the goals that often comes up, that the students talk about, is wanting to observe the lawyering process and legal judgment in action. We often think of the externs in these placements as being there in a very active role, working as student lawyer, completing some work that needs to get done in your office, perhaps that are short-staffed, and that they provide that real value. It's also, I think, a real value to offer the opportunity for the student to observe. In judicial placements, to observe court when court is being held in a trial court or at the appellate level, to be able to go and watch a trial is just as valuable as actually being the lawyer who's doing the trial. And so we do want to encourage that students get a variety of opportunities, and that among the varieties of opportunities of the externship, that observation be a component, and to allow them the time really to be able to watch what's going on in the lawyering process, and then also to see how your legal judgment or the legal judgment of your colleagues is being put in place. Another goal, a third goal that the students often like to talk about as a personal goal going into the externship, is applying what they know. And certainly there's a difference between the fall semester 2L student and the fall semester 3L student based on the kind of coursework or experiences they may have had during their summers. But it really is an important goal of many of the externs to be able to take what they're learning in crim law or in criminal procedure or in evidence or in federal courts or civil procedure, to be able to put that into practice. And by applying what they know, students really have the opportunity to demonstrate and learn another way from what they've just learned in a lecture. And it's that application of applying what they know that helps, I think, solidify for them the principles and theories behind the law and how it works. So please do try to encourage some reflection of your externs about what it is that they've learned in law school and how that's being complemented in the externship placement. Sometimes there's this sort of false conflict or false tension between going out and doing experiential learning and what they're learning in the classroom. I think that's a complete false, a false argument and false fight. But what is really important about experiential learning is complementing what the students have learned in the classroom and allowing them to go and apply what it is that they have been learning in the class. Fourth, it is also true that students learn a great deal of substance about the law that they just don't learn in the classroom. Either it is a abstract concept that doesn't quite click for a student until they see it in a practice setting. And so there is a lot of substantive law that you as supervisors in these externships are teaching. And that's a wonderful thing. You should feel gratified about that. The law school is gratified that you are offering that opportunity for the student to learn some substantive law that complements what they've been learning at the law school. And so it really is another avenue in which externs coming into the externship experience really are hoping to get as much substantive law as they possibly can. Fifth, I want to talk about the professional skills that the students learn. Many of the students, and I think a majority of the students this fall are 2L students. They may or may not have had a substantive legal experience this summer. We hope all of them have. But they really are coming to the practice of law needing skills in addition to just understanding what the law is. They need to grow and gain professional skills. They need to learn how to manage the schedule or a schedule. They need to learn how to meet deadlines. They need to learn the interpersonal skills that it takes in order to work in an office and succeed, or work well with others on the opposing side, or the interpersonal skills that are required to interact with a client. And these professional skills, quite frankly, aren't taught in any other place in the law school as well as they're taught in the externship placement. So students often are going in with the goal of trying to figure out what it is that they can do in order to figure out how best to be a professional, how it is that they can figure out the work-life balance, how they can meet deadlines, which, quite honestly, a lot of the students come in having some trouble with that. And it's really important in your placements to emphasize how important it is to be timely, to meet deadlines in the practice of law. And we really do hope that the students gain those professional skills under your supervision while they are in the externship placement. 6, trying out and testing other areas of the law. There are certainly students who come in with personal goals of trying to figure out whether this is the right fit for them. And we hope that externship supervisors aren't turned off by the fact that some students might not exactly know what it is that they want to do. Obviously, they have applied to be an extern in your office because that work interests them. But it doesn't necessarily mean that this is exactly the practice of law that they intend to do. I bring that up during this goal setting session with the students, and I bring it up here with you as supervisors because I think it's important to be sensitive to that issue that, not everybody is coming in here totally understanding the law and also totally committed to your particular practice or area of practice. That doesn't mean that you can't be an encouragement that clerking for the court or prosecuting, being a prosecutor, can't light that fire for them to crystallize that that's what they want to do. It is just to hopefully bring up the issue that some students are out there testing out other areas of the law. To go back to my own personal example, when my very first placement was in civil legal services, working with senior citizens. I loved the work. I was totally frustrated by how slow everything went in the process. And I figured out that for me, that wasn't going to be a good fit for me. And then I sort of gravitated towards the area of criminal law. That is not unlike what I think many of our students are doing in externships. And so I ask you to be patient sometimes with students, that's what's going on, but then also be encouraging to make where it is your placement is or what it is that you do as attractive and fulfilling as a potential future professional career. Seventh, I think. Networking is also an incredibly important part of the externship experience. The connections that students make and the collaborations with individual attorneys are an essential part of the externship. Students not only are building their resume by able to have this substantive experience on their resume that they were in a placement doing some work. They also have a recommender for the future in you as a mentor and as a supervisor. And that's an important part of making those connections. As I said, when I started, I didn't really have any connection to the law. The connections that I made and the network that I made at Legal Aid and Southern Center for Human Rights and the Public Defender's Office, those connections helped me on my path to be a lawyer, and for 20 years have continued to help. So those externship placement supervisors I have continue to be mentors. That is what I hope our students are getting in you. And so I ask that you see the value of how important it is to networking to the students, and that to introduce them to other members of your office and colleagues, to be there as a resource for them during the externship and then also after the externship. You're going to be a valuable part of what they are able to take with them in the future. One other goal that students often talk about is that as we have constructed our externship program to be focused on government, public interest, judicial clerkships, is this focus on helping others, and that lawyering serves a public good and is there to help promote a public good. And that is, I think, the very best of what the legal profession is about. That is the profession of the law being devoted to the success of the public good. Many of our students really do internalize how important this work is, and it might not be the ultimate path that they go down. They may become private attorneys, but they see the real value of how the law can be used for the greater good. And so we hope that in the externship placements, you as supervisors are able to instill within them how really gratifying it is to be a part of that, but and to emphasize how much the law is there to promote the public good, and that is often the mission of many of your offices, are to resolve disputes or to fight for justice. And so we hope that there is ample time spent during the externship experience in which you do talk about those sort of more lofty ideas about what the practice of law is devoted to do. Two more professional goals that we often talk about with the students in this goal-setting session that they've taken already this semester. And one is that they need to work on competencies. And there are a number of competencies. So I'm going to sort of tick through a few that are often talked about. Competencies that will make them successful lawyers. Competencies like self-awareness, knowing their limitations, knowing their strengths, is an important part of what they should be learning in the externship. They should be learning to become better active listeners. That is something that is, I think, an essential ingredient to a good lawyer, is to be a good active listener. to be questioning and probing. And so, this is part of the interaction which we hope they're gaining from you as the externship supervisor is that they can follow up with you and have sort of that probing question that we think are characteristic of very good lawyers. Asking and coming back and asking for more direction or presenting more questions. Communicating and presenting. Some externship opportunities allow this and this opportunity more than others. Obviously, the litigation placements really go a far way to assist in the communication and presentation skills, but a lot of students come to law school needing help in this particular area. And so it's a competency that we hope the externship experience, if your placement provides it, is one that they can work and hone their skills to be better communicators and better presenters. Two more competencies that I think make a good lawyer and that are opportunities in externships are empathy and resilience. Empathy, for those who are having direct client contact, really is a great skill for them to work on. And some come naturally with a great deal of empathy towards the clients, but others it takes some work. And so we hope that you understand that some students may need some correction or may need some direction on how to be more empathetic. My wife teaches in the criminal defense clinic, and I recall when we first started teaching back in 2009 when we both came here. She talked about how some of the students would do interviews in a very sort of robotic and legalistic way, and not necessarily realizing that the client was balled up on the floor, crying, and unable to provide the answers, and the students getting frustrated. This is a teachable lesson to the student, that perhaps a little more empathy to what the situation is with somebody incarcerated is like. And, that's a sort of soft skill that we don't often talk about, but it's one that I think is very valuable for you to instill in your extern of how important it is for them to work on skills like empathy. It's also equally important for them to work on resilience. All of us know as lawyers that the law can be frustrating. This can be a difficult job. It can be a very time-consuming and emotionally draining job. And those lawyers who are successful are the ones who are resilient and able to gather themselves and go back out there and continue to fight. And that is a really important skill that the students can learn here in their externship that will provide them a path, I think, to greater success as lawyers. And so, again, this is sort of one of the soft skills that might not be immediately evident to you, that's what your extern is there to learn at your office, but it really is part of a goal that we have, and it's a goal that they often say that's important to them. They want to learn how it is that they can sustain themselves in the practice of law, how they can remain to be happy and successful and do the difficult work that all of us do as lawyers. And the final goal that the students talk about, and they probably talk about this one the least, which maybe appropriately is put at the end here, is the value of reflection and reflecting on what it is that they're doing in the practice of law as an extern. It is obviously a very important goal of this externship program and of the ABA and the rules that they've set for field placements or externships is the value and importance of reflection. Reflection is why we have periodic journal entries or periodic reports that are turned into me as the director of the program. Students, if they don't take time to stop and reflect upon what it is that they're doing, they oftentimes will miss the real value of the experience that they have just had. Reflection is a necessary and very important component of the experience. And so we hope that you are encouraging students to reflect upon what may have happened, how that trial went, reflect upon the feedback that you've given them on their writing component, reflect upon how the judicial process is going, reflect personally how things are going with them. Are they able to sort of gather together the skills and competencies to be empathetic? Are they practicing this resilience that you think is important? We hope as the externship supervisor, you're able to help guide some of this reflection. Obviously, I will be there to help guide some of the reflection for the students. That's really one of the goals of the exit session at the very end. And also some of those other papers that they're turning in are reports. But we also recognize that a real important part of that reflection is going to be guided by you as the supervisor. So please know that this is one of the other personal goals that students have. So observing, applying what they know, learning what they don't know, networking, gaining professional skills, trying and testing out other areas of the law, working on their writing skills, helping others, working on some core competencies, and reflecting. All of those goals, I think, are universal for our externs. And if you are able to help guide them, support them in meeting their goals, we think that at the end of this externship, they will have learned a great deal. And you will have been largely responsible for them having learned that. So I'm going to now move from goals to talk about professionalism and this transition for our students becoming lawyers. They really do need some guidance on what it means to be a professional. And we do offer quite a lot of opportunities for them, and this semester we're offering 3 specific professionalism and ethics classes for the externs to choose from. Some on touching on office culture, some learning from mistakes that attorneys make that land them into trouble. But students don't naturally necessarily know what it means to be a professional. So these are the areas that they can work on best in the placement, and we hope that you're able to help them work on these skills. Sort of in connection with professionalism is also this issue of ethics. And so ethics in externships often come up, as they do in the practice of law in all of our lives. Obviously, there are clients for some of these externship placements, and students need to understand the ethical implications of representing in dealing with clients. And some students may be coming to your externship without having had the benefit of professional responsibility course, or may not have gone to many ethics or professionalism classes. So it's important for you to instill in them what the proper ethical conduct is and professional conduct is of lawyers. So when it comes to confidentiality, it really bears a lot of repeating throughout the externship of how important that client confidentiality is. How important it is, for instance, in an SEC placement, that current investigations that are going on are absolutely kept in confidence. That when they come back to the law school, they're not to talk about their cases, because there may be other externs who are working on the other side of a particular issue for another office. And so confidentiality is something that you should not be shy about instilling that principle within them, that as good ethical lawyers, they keep confidences of their clients. It is always important for you also to be talking to them about conflicts of interest. It is possible, especially with some of the placements, that students can have conflicts of interest. They may have in the summer worked on a case that now is before your agency. They, possibly are roommates with someone, this has happened in the past, that is working on the other side, perhaps, of your extern's case. It's important for you to bring up the importance of avoiding conflicts of interest and that you have an open channel of communication to discuss conflicts of interest. It's also important for you to instill for these students how important it is that they have a duty to tribunals and third parties just like you do as a lawyer. And your bar license obviously is on the line in these cases, and you conduct yourselves in ways in which you are truthful and forthright with tribunals and third parties. It's important for students to begin to learn how important that is, how their professional reputations are at stake often with this on the line. And students in their first working experiences maybe don't appreciate often enough how important it is for them to be forthright and honest. And so please emphasize that the ethics in your externship placement will hold them just as if they were a lawyer in your office, that they operate under those same rules of professional conduct. And finally, one ethics and externship issue that comes up is this issue of credits and compensation. And so this isn't sort of the canons of ethics, but this is just something that's on the side on ethics. Students cannot receive any compensation for the externship. That is a rule of the ABA, that as long as they're getting academic credit, they cannot receive compensation. And so I know that through the program description agreements, you receive that. What I do want to say is that the students that are working have to have 50 hours correspond to every single credit they're applying for. Students are encouraged to keep a log of their hours. They have to turn a log of their hours in. Some offices require it, so that makes it a little easier. Offices that don't require that, students have to come up with a way in which they are logging their hours. We encourage you as externship supervisors to be part of that skill of how to take account of their time and to make sure that they're documenting it accurately. On the compensation part of the credits, I also do want to say that if your office has resources to reimburse students, perhaps for transportation that's required for their job, if they have to go to one of the state prisons a couple hours away from your office, they can receive compensation in the terms of just reimbursement for some of their travel expenses. If you think you have a situation in which your office can help reimburse some out-of-pocket expenses of the student, please contact me if you have questions about it, and certainly discuss this with the student. That doesn't run afoul of the rule, and so is not an ethical violation in the externship setting for you to reimburse them for out-of-pocket expenses. All right, finally, the last couple minutes here, I just want to go over some of the nuts and bolts of the program. So my role as the faculty member is to have some of these classes, like the goal-setting session in the beginning, the exit session at the end, to read the reports that are turned in the mid-semester evaluation or the final, or some of the journal entries that students that are in externships of 3 credits or more must turn in. I also have to have site visits. If this is a placement, 3 credits or more, part of the regular communication that I need to keep up with the placements can be in a site visit. And over the last 2 years, I've been to many of the placements to do a site visit, to look where the students' sort of workstations are, to discuss the kinds of resources that you provide to the students. I often go to court to watch students in action. This is something that just helps, I think, connect us as faculty supervisor and as externship supervisor to understand that this is a joint process that we're involved in. And then also to ensure that the placement that the students are in gives them a professional setting in order to succeed. your role as supervisor. Your role as supervisor, of course, is to assign work, review work, give that substantive feedback, give those red lines to the writing, provide the examples of the motions, because the students might not know how to do that already, to orient them to the office, to discuss the goals of the student to make sure that those goals are met, to teach and impart ethics, to teach substantive law. It is a big job. It is a tough job. And the externship supervisors, we obviously couldn't do this without you volunteering to be a supervisor. And the students depend upon it, and the law school does as well. It's why I think you can't thank you enough. But your role as supervisor is so critical to the success of the student in this externship. What's expected of the student is that they perform legal writing and make sure that they get those opportunities to write, and that they are able to share that at the end of the semester. They're expected to attend the classes that are mandatory. They're expected to attend one of the professionalism sessions that is offered, and they are expected to turn in the mid-semester evaluation and the final report that they do as well. They have a lot of self-directed learning that they're doing in this process, but they also turn it in so it can be reviewed. If you are interested in seeing the mid-semester evaluation, ask the student to discuss with you what they're thinking about at the midpoint of their externship. It might be 100 hours in for a 4-credit externship. It might be less than that if there are less credits. Definitely do that. You also, as the supervisor, are expected at the very end of the externship to fill out a final supervisor report. We ask that you go over that report with the student so the student gets the feedback of how they did. Sometimes this is tough. Sometimes these are difficult conversations. But we hope that the document that's provided on the website for the externships helps provide some guidance on how to conduct this final interview and how to do this final assessment. If you should just go to the student section to find the final supervisor report, or ask the student to provide you with the form of the final supervisor report, and then just email that to the law externship site or to me directly, chris.mckee@colorado.edu. So with that, we conclude this training session, which is meant just to be something that helps along with the written training manual that we prepared. I hope that you get a sense of what it is that we're hoping to do here and what I'm hoping to do in the externship. It is to provide opportunities for the students to experiment with different areas of the practice of law, to professionally grow, to learn, to work on competencies, to get a better understanding of what it is to be a lawyer. And you really are the best guides for them as they are under your supervision in this externship. I hope that they learn from their mistakes. I hope they learn from their successes. And I hope that, at any time you want to discuss what's going on with a student in an externship, just please pick up the phone or send me an email. I think one thing that is uniform across the board with the externship supervisors that we have is that all of us really love being lawyers. You wouldn't take on the additional duties to be a supervisor if you didn't want to sort of impart the enthusiasm you have for the law, the love that you have for the law, to the next generation of lawyers. And I think that's a real gift. I want to thank you again for being an externship supervisor, and hopefully we stay in regular contact throughout the semester, and I look forward to seeing you at a future event or at a site visit. So thank you for tuning in online, or for watching this recorded, or for being here in person. Thank you.